We're joined now by our chief elections and campaign correspondent. That's Robert Costa. Bob, good morning. I thought of you often last night watching this. The president says this is a fake hearing, but we should remind our viewers that the testimony and the evidence is coming from former members of the president's administration. These are Republicans. These are conservatives. These are supporters of many of the other policies that the administration put forward. And I think the theme last night was closeness, how close the vice president came to encountering the mob, how scared his security detail was, and how the president himself could have walked just a few steps and called off the mob in the White House briefing room and did not. That's what stood out to me. What stood out to you as you were watching last night?
Tony, good morning. Such an important point. It was revealed last night how close American democracy came to not functioning, to not carrying on the night of January 6th. Footage from a secure location showed congressional leaders, Democrats and Republicans, huddled around a phone, talking to the acting Secretary of Defense, wondering, was the Capitol able to be secured? It was an open question that night about whether this whole thing, the certification of a presidential election, would happen, all while the president sat idle at the White House watching television in the dining room.
It's such a major fact that you just put forward, that American democracy itself was threatened. And the point was made last night that the threat continues. Followers of the former president continue to believe the current president is illegitimate and that violence would be justified to overthrow him. So I hate to bring this to politics, but what does last night's evidence and the committee's work to this point mean for the next election and the election after that?
Tony, the committee knows that ultimately it will be up to the Justice Department, to Attorney General Merrick Garland, to define whether all of this evidence is a criminal case against former President Trump. And they have not made a decision on that front yet. But they do believe, the committee does, that they can define Trump as a president who was abandoning his post, a president who was sitting there for hours as the Capitol was attacked, did not do his duty as commander-in-chief. And that's why they believe these hearings are important. And they know that some voters might not be paying attention, but they do believe they're breaking through because, in their view, talking to members, talking to people close to the committee, facts are facts. And when people see the images, they hear the sounds, those chilling phone calls from members of Vice President Pence's detail, they believe that perhaps they will sit up and wonder, should their assumptions, their thoughts about all of this be changed? Should they reevaluate, if they're especially a Republican, what happened?
I want to pick up, too, Bob, about those texts. That was so startling to me that you could hear the Secret Service, who were trained in this kind of thing. You could see that they were very concerned. People even used the word that they were scared about what was happening that night, so much so that they were calling their family members to say that this could be it. Why do you think that was important to include, and what did you make of that? We had heard that was something we had never heard before.
It was something that highlighted, Gayle, how what happened on January 6th was not just a crisis in democracy. It was a national security crisis. The Vice President of the United States steps away from people who had broken into the Capitol building, were not wanded in any way to see whether they had firearms. They might have been carrying, they might have had the intention to commit violence. And those Secret Service agents knew, as this evidence shows, that this was a very dangerous, perilous situation to have someone who's next in line to the presidency to be so close to violence that's unpredictable. And they also knew that this was a moment for the country where the whole world was watching. While the president was watching TV, the world was watching the United States, wondering who was in charge, what was going on.
And that the president never called his vice president when he knew he was in danger to say, "Are you okay? What is happening to you?" Also very startling.
Indeed. And their constitutional questions. Vice President Pence had to effectively serve as commander-in-chief for hours trying to get the National Guard activated.
Well, we do know these hearings have opened up the eyes to the American people on what happened on that very, very dark day. Bob, thank you.